Morning, guys. What's going on? Hey, it's Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority. Just want to talk to you about building your business up to sell. Most people that get into junk removal, generally all they're thinking about is they don't want to work for a boss anymore. They want to be their own boss. They want to make some additional money by going out and hauling junk. They think they're going to enjoy getting out in the field, going to different houses and doing the physical part of it, all of which is true. But what I want what you need to be doing is when you go into any new venture, whatever it is, if it's going to be going out on your own, is you need to go into it with the intention of building it to sell, whether or not you ever will. If you build up a really, really good business that can run smoothly with or without you, and got a good, reliable income stream, man, you may never want to sell it, but you want to go into it with the intention of doing that. Because what that'll help do is build you up freedom, and then also give you a potential exit strategy to get out as you, if you ever get sick and tired of the business, or if you got some other idea you want to pursue and you want to cash out and go into that. So just always go into any business with the intention to sell, whether or not you ever will. And when you first get started out, so a valuable business is going to be one that more or less can the day-to-day can run without you. Yeah, it might require you a little bit on the strategy end of things, and you might control when to purchase new equipment and make sure systems are getting implemented and so on and so forth. But the business is most valuable when you don't have to be in there running it every single day. That doesn't mean when you first start out that you're not going to be doing everything. So when you first start out, unless you've got a significant amount of money when you first get in there, you probably need to be on the truck. You need to be keeping the books. You can be answering phones until the point you get busy enough that you no longer need to answer phones, and you can hire a call center like ours. You can hire an individual. If your wife takes phones and she's good on the phone, just make sure whoever takes the phones is good on it, then that's fine. But it's starting out, you can do all of that. But what you want to do is a little at a time, you want to start turning that stuff over to other people. A lot of business owners make the mistake where they do it all at once. Business entrepreneurs are notorious for going all in on something. So you commit, you say, all right, I'm going to do this, and you go completely in. So you decide, all right, I no longer, I need to get off the truck. I need to get these guys, I need to get this business where it's running without me. So the first thing you do is you barely train somebody, you throw them out there, and you just assume, or you just hope that they're going to do as good a job as you. And they probably won't without proper training. So get them out there, get them properly trained, give them expectations for them to accomplish, and hold them accountable to meet those expectations. And people oftentimes will surprise you and do a great job. But if you don't train them how to do it, and if you don't tell them what's expected of them, if they don't know how high to jump, if they don't know how high the bar is, they don't know how high to jump, they're probably not going to clear that bar. You got to make that very, very clear. But you got to do it a little bit at a time. So if you're working 60 hours a week on the truck, you don't want to all of a sudden drop down to no hours on the truck or 10 hours on the truck. You want to wean yourself off a little bit at a time as you hire and as you train new guys. So if you're 60 hours a week on the truck, cut back to, make a commitment the next month you're going to be doing 40 or 45. The following month you're going to do 30, 35. And then maybe you hold tight there for a little while. You stay at that 30, 35 hour range for a while, as you're making sure things are going great, as you're developing systems, and as your people are proving themselves out. If you go off of it completely too fast, what's going to happen is the thing's going to blow up in your face, and then it's going to scare you from ever turning anything over again, because you're like, no, this thing's not going to be able to run without me. It can run without you, but you can't expect it to do it immediately. It's probably, for you to transition off the truck, it's a 4 to 6 month process to do it correctly. And even then, you still want to be stopping in on jobs from time to time. So when you finally get your business where it's capable of running without you, where somebody else is maintaining trucks for the most part, where you're no longer on the truck for the most part, where you're no longer taking calls. You got a company, or you got somebody else booking the jobs for you and taking customer phone calls. Basically, when you can leave and go out of town for, say, a month, maybe even 2 months, and you come back and that business is still just ticking right along, that's when you've got a business that's worth the most. You can sell it before you get to that point, but you want to try and work it to that point where that thing just keeps running and running and running without you. If you like being involved on the day-to-day, then you need to make sure you're paying yourself a reasonable salary and that the business is still profitable after it pays yourself. So if you're paying yourself a reasonable management salary, you can get away with it. But to a potential buyer, it actually looks much more desirable if you've got somebody else. If you have systems in place and you have somebody else running the business, and if you're just ticking along, doing high level stuff, or hardly working, not working a ton on the business, or definitely not working a ton in the business, and still making a great profit, then that business is really desirable to somebody that buys a business. Typically, the people that are going to buy a business, they're looking for an investment. They might work in it some. They could work on it a lot. But generally, the person that's got money, that's willing to spend good money on buying a business, they're not looking to go out there and haul junk. So they want to see that this business is capable running without you involved in it every single day. So if you are in the boat where it's largely relies on you, the business is probably just going to be worth about whatever assets you have, the fair market value of the assets, plus maybe a little bit of goodwill. But unless you're giving yourself that great salary. So getting off the truck and getting the business running without you is when you're going to get the most money. So what is it worth? This is the big question a lot of people want to know is how much is a junk removal business worth? A good rule of thumb is if you have under $1 million in sales, you're going to be worth about 2 to 3.5 times EBITDA. And it's like EBITDA. I can't say it properly, but that stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So which is more or less what your bottom line is. So that doesn't count when you depreciate stuff out on for your tax return. It doesn't count paying taxes. This is what your true bottom line is before you take out all the paper losses. So 2 to 3.5 if you're under $1 million in sales. Over $1 million in sales, generally you're going to be looking somewhere between 3 to 5 times your net profit. And then if you can reach that $5 million plus, you can actually get returns of 5 to 10 times your profit. So your typical junk removal company, if you build it up correctly, if you're not going to see this immediately, it's going to take you 3 or 4 years to establish this, but you can work your way to about a 20% profit margin. That's after paying all expenses other than taxes and interest and all that sort of deal. You can work yourself to about a 20% profit margin. So if you get that business to $1 million in sales, then you 20% profit margin, you're looking at about a $200,000 profit. That tells me that business is going to be worth somewhere between $600,000 to $1 million if you go out there and sell it. That doesn't account for what the assets you have. So if you have a few $100,000 in paid off assets in terms of trucks, you would just add whatever the assets are. You would add on to that to get your sales price. What you really need to do is if you do think that you eventually do want to sell, what you need to do is figure out what sale price would you want, and then just do the math. So I generally, if they say you reach $1 million in sales, you can earn 3 to 5x. I normally just use a factor of 4 to figure out what kind of price I could potentially get. I think the breakdown is like 1.25 million. If you use a factor of 4, you can get $1 million for your company. Now, keep in mind, this is just one location generally. If you have multiple locations, it's still worth it. It's a more complicated transaction when you go to sell it. You probably won't get as high. You're definitely not going to get as high of a multiple if you get the $5 million in sales and it's 3 locations. If you get 5 million in sales or $1 million in sales, whatever, and it's just one location, that's going to be more desirable than a larger organization to a potential buyer. Still worth a good amount if you got 5 million in sales and it's multiple locations, but you're going to be worth more if it's just that single location that's bringing in all those profits. So when you're ready to sell, one of the first things you can do, you can get an appraisal of your business, get an actual amount. What is my business worth? So you got to get all your financial documents in order. and then you'll hire a business appraiser. They'll come in and they'll give you an appraisal, and they'll let you know approximately what your company's worth. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to do, even before you're ready to sell. So if you get to a certain point, 3-4 years in, you want to see, all right, what is this asset worth? They'll come out, they'll get you a price, and then that'll help you set a goal. Okay, what do I need to get to if I do want to cash out? And when you are ready to sell, well, first thing, if you build this thing up where it's running mostly without you, and you're not a slave to your business, you're not getting burnt out, then I think a lot of you will realize I can just sit here and just earn a couple $100,000 a year without a ton of work, without a ton of stress. If you've able to get this thing established, why would I want to sell? But to some people, cashing out, getting that $1 million, that's whatever you can get. That's what they want. They can live off that for a while. That's going to allow them to do whatever else they want to do next, and that can be a good route to go. So one of the first things you'll do is you'll hire a business broker, and that business broker will help you get everything set up in your business. Make sure the documents are correct. They'll help you market. They'll help you negotiate with a seller, and they'll protect you. A good one will protect you throughout that deal. They'll make sure non-disclosure agreements are set up. They'll make sure you don't have just a competitor fishing for information that's not really interested in buying your business. They'll just help you guide. It's a fairly complicated process. They'll help you guide you along the way. One thing to keep in mind, typical business broker, this is negotiable, but on smaller deals, and even a $1 million, $2 million sale to a business broker is not a large deal, but on small to medium-sized deals, I don't even know if that's a medium deal, but it's on maybe the larger end of small. Generally, you're going to pay about 10% commission to a business broker. It is negotiable. You might be able to get that down several percentage points, so you always want to try and negotiate, but you also don't want to go with the cheapest guy. Find a company that's got a reputation and can show you some businesses they've sold in similar fields. Maybe not necessarily junk removal companies, but home service businesses would be nice. And that might be a person that you're going to want to work with. Always know that if you do these things correctly, if you build this business correctly, you've got a great asset. This can be a great retirement. So you just got to go about building it intentionally, and looking at it from a long-term perspective and not necessarily a short-term. And junk removal business, if it's done right, can make you independent, can make you wealthy, for sure. And selling your business can get you a kind of a big wad of cash all at once. And you might be able to have some fun with that, and you'll have some more money to invest in something else. But you also might just build a business up that just keeps giving you great income year after year after year that don't require a whole lot of effort. Guys, appreciate you watching. Check us out at junkrA.com. Again, this is Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority. We'll talk to everybody real soon.